November 2020. I had just moved to Seattle for a job as a night shift fleet coordinator for a luxury car-sharing app. The company owned a fleet of over 100 high-end vehicles that users could rent through their phones. My job was based in a glass-walled office inside a massive, 3-level underground parking garage downtown, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I was responsible for monitoring the GPS of the fleet, checking cars for damage when they were returned, and ensuring they were cleaned for the morning rush. It was a lonely, quiet job, but for a 22-year-old, the pay was better than anything I could find elsewhere. But by the end of my first month, I realized that someone was using my job to study my life. The first sign that something was wrong happened on a Tuesday. At exactly 3:14 in the morning, a black Tesla car number 42 was returned to the second level of the garage. I walked out of my office, the sound of my boots echoing against the concrete walls, and headed toward the car to perform a standard inspection. When I opened the driver's side door, I saw something sitting on the center console that made me stop dead. It was a blue ceramic coffee mug with a chipped handle. My heart skipped a beat because I recognized that mug. It was the exact mug I had left on my kitchen counter when I left for work 4 hours earlier. I even recognized the specific stain near the rim. I stood there for a long time, just staring at it. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence. Maybe it was a popular brand. But the chip in the handle was unique. I had dropped it 3 years ago during my college graduation. I checked the app to see who had rented the car last. The name on the account was John Smith, with a prepaid credit card and a burner phone number. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, but I forced myself to finish the inspection and put the mug in the lost and found. 2 nights later, it happened again. Car number 42 was returned at the same time. This time, when I opened the door, there was a small silver key sitting in the cup holder. Scared, it was the spare key to my mailbox, a key I kept in a junk drawer in my hallway. My hands were shaking as I took the key. I realized then that this wasn't just a prank. Someone was entering my apartment while I was at work, taking my personal belongings and leaving them in the cars I was assigned to inspect. I didn't call the police right away. I was young and, looking back, incredibly stupid. I wanted to know who was doing this. I went back to my office and pulled up the GPS history for car 42. I expected to see the car traveling to a house or a hotel. Instead, the map showed that for the last 4 nights, the car had driven to my apartment complex and idled in the visitor parking lot for 5 hours straight. Whoever was renting the car was sitting outside my home while I was trapped in this garage. I decided I was going to catch them. On Friday night, I saw car 42 leave the garage at 11 p.m. I knew it would be back around 3 in the morning. Instead of staying in my office, I went to the second level and climbed into the trunk of a large SUV parked directly across from the Tesla's designated spot. I left the trunk slightly cracked so I could see out. Whispering. At exactly 3:12 a.m., I heard the low hum of an electric motor. The black Tesla pulled into the spot. The headlights cut out, plunging the garage back into its dim, yellow twilight. I held my breath, my chest tightening. The driver's side door opened. I watched as a figure stepped out of the car. He was wearing a gray hoodie and dark jeans, but he was moving with a strange, calculated rhythm. He didn't walk toward the elevators. He walked toward the glass office where I was supposed to be sitting. He stood outside the glass, looking at my empty chair. Then he did something that made my blood turn to ice. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small spray bottle and a cloth. He began to meticulously wipe down the glass door of my office, specifically the handle where my fingerprints would be. He wasn't just a stalker. He was cleaning up. He turned around, and for a split second, the overhead light hit his face. I almost screamed. It was me. It was my face. But it wasn't a doppelganger. It was a high-quality silicone mask, a professional-grade prosthetic that captured my jawline, my hair color, and even the small mole on my neck. He was wearing my spare work uniform, the one I kept in my locker. I realized he wasn't just stalking me. He was practicing. He was learning how to be me so he could take my place, and he was doing it right in front of me. He walked back to the Tesla and reached into the passenger seat. He pulled out a heavy black gym bag. He began walking toward the maintenance stairs, the ones that led to the utility tunnels under the city. I knew I should have stayed hidden, but the adrenaline took over. I climbed out of the SUV and followed him, keeping my distance. He went through a heavy metal door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." I followed him into a narrow concrete hallway lined with pipes. At the end of the hall, there was a small janitor's closet. The door was slightly ajar. I crept up to it and peered through the gap. Disgust, it had been converted into a makeshift living space. There were photos of me pinned to the walls, hundreds of them. Photos of me at the grocery store. Photos of me sleeping through my bedroom window. Photos of me entering this very garage. But the worst part was the desk. On the desk was a recorder playing a loop of my own voice, from a phone call I'd made to my mother a week prior. The man was standing in the center of the room, staring at a mirror. He was adjusting the mask, practicing my smile. "Hello, this is the night coordinator," he said. He said it in my voice, my exact pitch, my exact inflection. I accidentally bumped the door frame. The man froze. He didn't turn around slowly. He whipped his head toward the door with a speed that didn't feel human. He didn't say a word. He just lunged. I turned and bolted back down the hallway. I could hear his footsteps behind me, heavy and fast. I burst through the metal door back into the garage and ran for the elevators, screaming for help. I didn't stop until I reached the street level and found a police cruiser parked near a 24-hour diner. The police searched the garage and the maintenance tunnels. They found the closet. They found the photos, the mask, and the gym bag, which contained a set of industrial zip ties and a heavy-duty sedative. But the man was gone. He had vanished into the utility tunnels before the officers could seal the perimeter. The investigation revealed that the John Smith account had been created using a stolen identity from a man who had gone missing in Oregon 6 months earlier. When the police checked my apartment, they found that my front door lock had been professionally picked and replaced with a smart lock that the intruder could control remotely. He had been letting himself in and out whenever he pleased. I quit that job the next morning and moved back to my hometown across the country. I don't work night shifts anymore. I don't even like being in parking garages. But the thing that keeps me awake at night isn't just the memory of that mask. It's a small detail the police mentioned weeks later. They found a calendar in that closet. On the date of the night I followed him, there was a single note written in red ink. It said, "Transition delayed. Subject is watching." I realized then that he didn't run because I caught him. He ran because the transition wasn't perfect yet. And sometimes I look in the mirror and wonder if I'm still the one looking back. Be careful who you share your space with, even if you think you're alone. See you in the next episode.
Don't forget to subscribe.